Hello, beautiful people. How are you? I'm sorry that I've kind of gone missing. I was ill and it took me nearly a month to recover. And as you can probably hear, my voice is still not back to normal. So, yeah, a lot going on my end. So today I was thinking about what do I want to speak to, and sometimes I just feel like, who's listening? Why do I need to say more? There's nothing more to say. And then I was reflecting on how just my own journey this last 6 months of really, really going inwards, and in many ways being forced to, and I don't like using this word because it sounds so formulaic, but really like what have been the benefits, because I'm finding myself in a moment in my life right now where whatever in the situations that I'm in, I'm needing to speak a lot of truth and to really communicate authentically and with integrity and, not skirting around anything or hiding anything or pretending anything, like really, really. I mean, it's always been my motto to my way of operating, that I really always try to show up with authenticity and integrity and be in my truth and speak my truth. And one friend was saying for herself personally that it's like, oh, it's hard. It's hard in the moment to speak the truth, to be authentic, especially if it's in a relationship, or even if you're dating someone, or it could be with your family, or it could be in a work situation, that to really be in our truth and speak our truth and be authentic and say the things that we're thinking and feeling, but we're afraid to. It's a skill, and to do it in such a way also that it can be heard, and that we don't purposefully, well, I'm not saying sometimes it's unconscious, we don't mean to, but it happens that we can trigger someone or hurt someone. So it's a huge kind of skill and path of mastery to really firstly understand ourselves, and then be able to communicate ourselves with others so that they can understand as best as possible. So today I want to dive into, just for lack of a better term, the benefits, what we gain by really going inside and really getting to know ourselves, really, 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 truly, without the distraction. And I think in these continued times of just everything is getting louder and louder and louder and more chaotic and more distraction and more division and more all of these things, it is crucial and essential and like fundamental to how things are going to unfold in the future, both personally and collectively, that we go in and I don't want to say do the inner work, that we just go in and get to know ourselves. It's going to become vitally important. So let's dive into that topic and see where it takes us. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. I might have shared this in the last episode that I recorded several weeks back, that, that my experience of being ill was almost like this culmination of everything that I've been going through for the past 5-6 months prior to that. And that was that I was in such a state of absolute surrender and just being in the present moment, not going into any story, not going into victimization, not going into blame, not going into the why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? But really just being in the present moment with it, and trusting it, and finding the bits of wisdom of it, okay, this is unpleasant, but it was like I knew it was a cleansing, it was a purging, it was a releasing, it was a shedding, it was a letting go. It felt necessary in a way, no matter how unpleasant at times it was. And it showed me that everything that I had been kind of experiencing and quote unquote doing, it's more like how I was showing up within the experience for the months leading up. It showed me when I was sick that it's like, oh, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. And for those that know you and know me, sorry, not you. For those that know me and have been following me, but also for those that don't, I have spent a lot of my lifetime going inwards. I think that's been part of my journey. And I'm an ambivert, so I'm proper introvert, extroverted, maybe becoming more extroverted as I grow older, but that internal time and space is mandatory for me. I need it. I cannot live without it. And so I've spent a lot of my life in my internal world as well. Like I'm also very external. I love connecting to people. I love putting things out there, but I can only do that if I go in and explore my inner verse, and then I take that and I bring it out into the world. And I think the reason why I still do these podcasts after God knows how many years is because if it can help one person, through an experience where they might resonate with my story or what I've learned. I'm not here to teach. I'm here to just be a fellow traveler and say, hey, this is what I've experienced. This is the wisdom I've gleaned and garnered from it. And I want to share it if it's useful to anyone. And what I know in my experience is that none of the things that I share would have come into light had I not gone into myself to discover these things. And, we all come into this life with whatever package suitcase of information that we needed to bring into it. And I think this life in particular, I came in with a certain level of understanding of things and probably the intention to really go, okay, my life isn't going to be about all the external stuff and the doings. It's really going to be about the beings and learning from the internal voice and from the internal feeling and experience. So that's what I want to share with you. So as I was saying, the culmination of being ill allowed me to see all of I wish there was a different word for work, just everything that I experienced the months before. And what it's given me is this one thing that I've always said throughout 15 years of kind of doing this work is, can it be okay? Like what I'm trying to invite people into is, no matter what you're thinking, feeling, or experiencing, can it be okay? Can you be okay? And what that means is, can you accept, allow, love, have compassion for, be kind, be forgiving to your entire human experience with no like little small fine print that says, yes, I love and accept myself, except for when I feel or think or do this, right? There are no conditions. This is truly about, as much as we humanly can, have unconditional acceptance for who we are. And so I've always asked people, can it be okay? But the follow-up question to that is, and if it doesn't feel okay, like if you go, no, it's not okay, can that be okay? Can it be okay to not be okay? So when we're unconditionally accepting of ourselves, that doesn't mean that we still don't have judgment, that we still don't experience shame or sometimes dislike of ourselves or frustration or shit, why did I do that? And why couldn't I do this? Or this part of me really frustrates me. Or it doesn't mean that that doesn't exist. It actually means the opposite. It means that it absolutely has the space and the invitation to be included. It also has a seat at the table. And it's accepted for what it is, and it's listened to for the message that it has to share, and the wisdom that can be. We can always choose to extrapolate, to draw out wisdom out of any experience. And so this idea that we kind of like to segregate and fragment parts of ourselves and compartmentalize them, that's the word I was looking for, into different parts. Like, this is the part of me that is acceptable, and this is the part of me that's not acceptable. We will forever be lonely if we do that to ourselves, because what we're basically saying is, I like this part, I don't like this part. I love this part, I don't love that part. This part is okay, that part's not okay. This part I can reveal, that part I can't reveal. And so you're forever going to be divided within yourself. And then what humans tend to do is that go, well, why doesn't my mom love me fully? Why doesn't my father love me fully? Why doesn't my partner love me fully? Who's the person that's going to make me feel loved and whole and accepted and seen and understood for who I am? If you do not have those eyes, ears, and heart for yourself, we never find it outside of ourselves. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that actually that doesn't exist. Maybe somebody in your life really is saying, I love you no matter what. I love you unconditionally. I accept you unconditionally. If you are within condition with yourself, you will not see that actually what they're giving you is as close to unconditional as possible. We won't be able to receive it. And that's actually a very important word, because that's been something that's come up for me a lot in January, is this word of receive. Corinne, receive. Allow yourself to receive. Give yourself the permission to receive. Receive an invitation. Receive an act of generosity. Receive a compliment. Receive whatever it is, to whatever small or large degree. The scale of it doesn't matter. Can I receive? Can I receive this opportunity? Can I receive this experience? We limit ourselves. We block ourselves. Sometimes there's underlying unconscious, subconscious programs going on that, a very ubiquitous one for people is that they want love, but it's hard for them to receive love because their programming or belief system underneath that says, I'm not worthy of it, or maybe I'm afraid of receiving it because I've been abandoned. So if I let it in, then it's going to be taken away, and that's too painful. Some people are conscious of these programs and beliefs, and some people are completely not, and they're still kind of being the tail that wags the dog, so to speak. But often it's ironic that the very thing that we want, we're afraid of receiving. And so it always, always, always comes back to our relationship with ourselves. And sometimes that frustrates people. They're like, well, my parents, fucked me up. It's like, well, no, they didn't actually. They were just trying to do their best as well as human creatures themselves that have their own wounds and pains and fears and insecurities and limiting beliefs. And this is the school of life, and being human is so multi-textured. It's so multi-textured. There are so many layers. That's why the saying of peeling back the layers of the onion is so perfect for our experience, because it really is that, And as I say that, I also want to be very mindful to make the point that we're not a project. We're not a project that needs fixing and perfecting to the point of, okay, when you've refined the project, then you will be accepted, loved, worthy, lovable, included, that you'll belong. That's a fundamental, and again, this is the conditioning that we need to take away. We need to unlearn this conditioning of your sin. The moment you have a human experience that you should feel ashamed of it. There's a lot of indoctrination around that from eons. So there's a lot that we're carrying and processing and experiencing. And at the same time, this is the paradox, it's also incredibly simple, because really all that anything needs is love. And sometimes people might go, oh, love, I'm so tired of that new age, whatever crap. But it's because love encompasses so much. Love, true love, not conditional love, not romantic love. I'm talking about divine love. You insert whatever word you'd like to, use as an adjective to describe love, but from a higher source. The love that is the essence of who we are. That kind of love, within the word, within the symbol, within the energy of that, is acceptance, is support, is safety, is just all the things that we would want. Feeling seen, heard, understood, truth, purity, connection, belonging, home. The word encapsulates so much. That is the source that we need to draw upon for ourselves. Of course, we want to be loved unconditionally by our parents, by our family members, by our partners, by our friends, by everyone and everything. No, I'm just joking, but but that initial source comes from source. That initial source of love comes from source, and it then gets channeled through you. And through you and through your heart and how you show up and give love to others, you become like another spout of source of that love. It's kind of like a fountain with many levels, or, if you had a balloon and you poked a bunch of holes and it has all of these different exit points of the water, it's like the balloon itself is source. And then we are all of these different aspects of it, flowing that out into the multiverse. But it really, as cliche as it might sound, it really does begin within ourselves. And the moment that we're grasping for any kind of validation or love or approval or acceptance or to be seen or to be proud of, whenever we're grasping for that from the outside, it just indicates that we're really needing to turn around and look at ourselves and go sit with ourselves and feel all of these things within ourselves. I know a lot of you know this. It's not new information, but it's really important to be reminded of it, because it's easy to forget. And it's especially easy to forget in a society that will tell you the exact opposite. It will tell you that you need to prove your worth. It will tell you that you need to do all the time, or else you're going to be lazy, and therefore you don't fit into society, or you're not going to, belong, or you're not going to be accepted. It's that tribalism, all of these, we live really in an inversion in that sense. And I think on a side note, until we really heal our connection and relationship with nature and understand that we are a part of nature, that kind of knowing that we are enough as we are won't fully be healed, because the tree isn't growing for you to go, oh, you're a good tree, you're growing well, you're fitting my expectations of who you should be as a tree. Like, the tree just grows, it just is. And it sheds its leaves and it grows again, and it changes colors and it sheds its leaves again. It just is. It's part of the one of all things. And humans and the way that our brain works and the way that it's been trained to work is so much about compartmentalism, compartmentalizing things, and creating the illusion of separation. And in doing that, then that also creates competition and comparison, and these things cause suffering, right? So all of this to say that when you can come into that unconditional, as much as possible, that unconditional, like, no matter what I'm feeling, thinking, experiencing, going through, that it's okay, that I accept myself, I love myself. Okay, right now I feel really ashamed about this. Can I love that too? Right now I feel frustrated about this. Can I love that too? I'm just trying to draw in some examples of, what people say to themselves or how they think, but really it's like whatever you are thinking, feeling, experiencing in this moment, be with it with love. So it doesn't mean that I'm condoning, like, go out and be an asshole, go out and do something violent, like, oh, that's okay, I love myself. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm wanting to filter down into in the most concentrated form is that your human existence matters. It's worthy. It's lovable. It's significant. Like, going all the way to the original, like, this whole thing. I actually watched while we were all sick, watched the series His Dark Materials, which is based on Philip Pullman's book, the series of The Northern Lights, The Golden Compass, that trilogy. And I really highly recommend either reading the books or the BBC/HBO series is actually really good. And it's very reflective of what we're going through right now as a collective. It's really, really interesting. But it's this whole speaking to consciousness and original sin that the church kind of came up with this term. and the effect that that's had. So, and I'm not here to judge religion, but it's like to really understand how certain terminology and certain beliefs and perspectives, the effect that that's had on us as human beings is profound. And what we're going through right now, through this, whatever you want to call it, an awakening, an ascension, a remembering, is to let go of all of these false labels, because that's what they are. They are false. We are not sinful. We are not made of sin. There's nothing wrong with us. It's not that we're not good enough. We're incredibly worthy as we are, just for breathing, just for living, just for being a soul. Source, God, creator, whatever you want to call it, doesn't have that judgment. And all I can say from my own personal experience, and this is decades of doing it and being with it, is that my level of self-acceptance keeps on, the word that always comes in is, it keeps on softening. Because when we're in judgment, it's hard. It's hard edges, hard walls. Some people's self-judgment is like a dagger, right? It cuts deep. When we come into acceptance, we soften. Our heart feels more safe and it gets to open. It softens and opens. Like, think of a rose, right? When it's tight in a bud, it's pretty firm. And when it opens its petals, it softens so that the petals can open and release. And then sometimes, it gets to the point where it softens so much that that's when the petals fall. And that's the end of that cycle. But again, from my experience, there's something so beautiful in the softening. And don't get me wrong, I still can have the places where I hold myself in and I protect. I don't want to say hold myself in. I protect because of discernment, because I've learned look before you leap. I've learned self-love and self-care and boundaries, not in a defensive way, but in a self-care way. And sometimes we do have to protect, or sometimes we do have to hold our energy a little bit in, or sometimes we do need to give ourselves that feeling of safety and security, or just that sacred circle around. That Buckminster Fuller said that this is how he describes boundaries, is drawing a sacred circle around you and choosing who. It's basically saying anything in this circle is sacred, and then I choose who comes into it or who doesn't, right? We do have that choice. We do have that ability to discern in that way. So sometimes we need that sacred circle to be in our own space, because, we're not going to gel with everything, and that's okay. Not every situation is going to be right for us, and that's okay. But within that, the softening is just, it's a relief, folks. It's a beautiful relief, because there's no resisting. There's no fighting against. First and foremost, there's no resistance to ourselves, because we're often, if you really start paying attention and you really bring a heightened awareness into your day-to-day experience, you'll probably be surprised or come to find that you're resisting yourself quite a lot. When we stop fighting ourselves, then it becomes much, much easier to not fight our external situation. So for instance, when I got sick, I was already in such a state of non-resistance within myself that I didn't resist the illness. And that's a relief, because then it's just neutral. It's just the experience. Again, you might not prefer it, you might not enjoy it, but to be honest, I had moments of absolute bliss. It sounds very strange, but I was so in a state of peace and surrender that there was joy in it. And I didn't focus so much on the illness, because I was just in this state of being, of just openness, softness, love, allowing, presence, just the present moment. So much of our suffering comes from just how we perceive, or what we project, or the story that we tell ourselves about our moment, or this moment, or the past moment, or the future moment. So it's very busy, right? So if I were to use the word benefits, which I don't really like the word, but I'll use it for lack of a better term, the benefit of going in and spending time with ourselves and doing this, whatever, again, words are so limited, work, process, experience of just being with yourself as often and as frequently as possible, is that the benefit is relief. The benefit is that you don't have to try so hard. You still get to grow, you still get to expand, you still get to be curious and also take accountability and self-responsibility of like, oh God, in that moment I didn't show up so well, or in that moment my tone wasn't great. Okay, take self-responsibility, but there's no berating, there's no reprimanding, there's no shaming. You can just easily take self-responsibility because you're not caught in that story of, God, you're a terrible person. You were never loved. You can go into a whole rabbit hole, a downward spiral around that. You can just go, oh yeah, God, in that moment, sorry, my tone was a little bit harsh. Okay, this is what's going on for me. And it's just neutral. It's so much easier. It doesn't mean you still can't have emotions and passions, but the reactivity of that becomes less. It becomes much more held in a state of consciousness and awareness. And the tail is no longer wagging the dog. We're in more of a sense of a quote unquote control, not the control that we see in our world, but meaning again, words are so limiting. Yeah, it's like we're driving the car and we're driving it in harmony. We're not like all over the place, all over the sliding, all over the road, about ready to crash, right? So the benefit is relief. And then when you feel that relief, going back to what I said in the beginning of, being able to really speak truth, to show up authentically, to show up with integrity, to really speak the truth, but to also speak it in a way that is kind, that isn't like going to hurt the other person purposefully, at least. Their reaction will be their reaction. We have no control over that. That all comes much more easily as well because we're in truth within ourselves. We're not fighting against ourselves. We're actually coming from a place of wholeness and completeness because we are accepting of all parts of us. And then you get to the point where you don't even speak in parts because you naturally become the whole because it's all okay. And you realize that if something comes in that maybe you do not have a preference towards, you can hold it with love. You go, oh, okay, what are you needing right now? How can I love you more? How can I hear you more? How can I make you feel more safe? Everything comes from a much more compassionate, loving, soft place. And then our nervous system gets to relax. Because we get triggered by other people. We don't like what they say. We don't like how they show up. We don't like what they're doing. But we also have to see and take responsibility for the fact that we're probably doing that within ourselves. And the moment that we can relax that within ourselves and we're not judging or shaming or blaming ourselves so much, we will do it less and less and less with others. And then the maturity comes in to actually be able to communicate in a non-reactive way. Hey, when you do this, it makes me feel like this. Would you be willing to? That's going into nonviolent communication. So, all of this is I like what someone said, that evolution is not like you could look at it from a biological standpoint, but the greatest evolution of what we're going through here on this planet is an ascension of consciousness, a dimensional ascension, moving from low dimensional fields to higher dimensional fields that are going to bring us into higher and greater states of consciousness, which is basically going back to source and the source of who we are, right? We come here to forget so that we can go through the arc of humanity to remember again who we are. And through that remembrance and through the whole journey, the gamut and all the terrain that we go through, in that remembering, we evolve. And so it's constantly this upward spiral. But spirals sometimes have to go down and in before they can come up and out. So that's why no part of you, your life, your experience, your humanity is bad, wrong, sinful, evil. None of it. All of it is a point, an opportunity for growth. And that growth comes through love, compassion, forgiveness, understanding, kindness, softening, with and for yourself, with and for others. So it's just a reminder. Be gentle with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Hold all parts of you. Know that you're already whole and complete as you are. Know that you are already worthy and loved and lovable as you are. that you matter, that you belong, that you're here for a reason, that you're never alone and you're never separate, that's the illusion of this game. So find your source, find your essence. Begin to understand the language of your heart, of your emotions, of your humanity, and love every word of that language. And the benefit is relief. The benefit is peace. And out of relief and peace, there's a whole lot more appreciation and gratitude for just what is. And the letting go of the shit you can't control. Don't sweat the small stuff, right? It's okay to be human. And also don't forget that you're a spiritual being. You know? You're an infinite, immortal, exquisitely divine, miraculous soul. And you are Source itself. Don't forget that. We are remembering, we are remembering, we are remembering. I'll leave it at that. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.